Welcome to PaleriderTV, and welcome to this new series called Fallen Flags. Fallen flags in the trucking industry that were once a seen all over the place, all over the United States. We're big in the trucking industries. The first episode is going to be MS carriers. I started driving in 1995 with Builders Transport. MS carriers, they were all over the place. Then I went to Epps, started driving a drive van, started seeing a lot of MS carriers around a lot of the places we picked up at, delivered to, and they were quite a big company back in the day. I think they used to ask, what does the MS stands for? And they say movie star. So if you ever got it called out on the CB, a movie star, they were talking about that MS carriers. So let's go over here and see what happened. The beginning and the ending of MS Carriers. MS Carriers was founded in Memphis, Tennessee by Michael Starnes in 1978. Starnes founded the company from his own home with just two trucks and $10,000. That's the way to do it. By 1986, the company had achieved considerable success and gone public. In 1987, MS Carriers announced the construction of a new terminal in Jackson, Tennessee. The terminal would be the company's fifth terminal. Other terminals were in Nashville and Memphis, as well as Tupelo, Mississippi, and Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Starnes became a strategy of expansion into short haul markets throughout the 1990s. At the time, more than 75% of the truckload freight in the nation was carried on routes within a 500-mile radius of their origin, and Starnes focused on owning that market share. The strategy paid off, and in 1993, MS Carriers grew 20% overall. The growth allowed the company to add 400 tractors to the pool of assets, now totaling over 1,900. Growth continued in 1994 with revenues of $292 million. MS Carriers also established MS Logistics Services in 1994, a subsidiary of MS Carriers Inc. that provided logistics and supply chain services. So the company's primary business was in the eastern two-thirds of the United States. By this time, at least 10% of its business was delivering freight across the border into Mexico. In 1995, MS Carriers continued to experience financial success, reporting first quarter earnings of over $81 million, a substantial increase over the reported $60 million for the same time period in the previous year. In 1998, the company invested some of its financial success in the acquisition of Interstate Trucking Corporation, a truckload carrier located in Merrill, Wisconsin. Further investment occurred in 2000 when MS Carriers partnered with several other truckload carriers, including U.S. Express, Covenant Transport, Warner Enterprises, Swift, and J.B. Hunt, to found Transplace.com. I remember Transplace.com, one of the first four PLs in the market. Each of the carriers that owned Transplace contributed a cash investment and agreed to merge their freight brokerage and logistics businesses into the venture. MS Carriers invested $5 million in the endeavor. For owner carriers, the venture was a failure. After a decade, the owner carriers all sold off their ownership of Transplace to a private equity group, and each wrote down their investment, effectively losing the money they had invested and value of their freight brokerage operations. Transplace went on to be a smashing success with new owners who built it into an $8 billion logistics powerhouse. It ended up selling for $1 billion in 2017. Wow. In December 2000, Swift announced that it was acquiring MS carriers in a merger that created the second largest in terms of revenue truckload carrier in the United States. The $650 million acquisition allowed MS carriers to operate as a semi autonomous subsidiary of Swift for 3 years. Combined, the two companies had almost $2 billion in annual revenue and 15,000 tractors. At the time of the merger, MS carriers had grown to employ over 5,000 people. So they got swallowed into Swift, and I think they eventually became all Swift. And I remember, I think it was with Epps. We used to drive up 81 in Virginia all the time. Seemed like there was a terminal, big terminal there, MS carriers. Somewhere, I guess somewhere around Winchester or something. Off 81 up there, somewhere. I can't remember exactly. If you were going north, you looked over to the right, and you could see MS Carrier's terminal. I think it's pretty big. Then all of a sudden, you start seeing Swift trailers, more and more Swift trailers getting there, and Swift ended up taking over that place. I can't remember the name of that town up there, somewhere around Winchester, I think, or in that general vicinity. I'm not sure. Been a long time since I've been up that way. But there you have it. MS Carriers, movie stars, used to be all over the place, and they're quite successful in their day, but swallowed in with Swift. Swallowed up with Swift, and Swift took them over, and that's it. So let me know down in the comments if anybody drove for MS Carriers back in the day, or if you know of anybody that drove for MS Carriers. What was it like? Did you have a good time? Did you make any money? And what happened when Swift took over? So I appreciate everybody watching. Stay tuned for more videos about fallen flags in the trucking industry. So I appreciate everybody watching. Everybody have a good day. Stay safe.